some of you here, not sure if anyone have attended this. This is a repetition of a session from last month of May, because due to overwhelming response, it's a good response that quite a lot of you missed out as well. You were requesting for the session to be repeated as well. That's why here today we are repeating one of our sessions here to learn about basically like the title we mentioned here, things you wish you knew before learning about Linux. All right. So for the participants here, whether you're from local, from Malaysia, or you're from international Philippines or anywhere else around the world, do take note here. We do have quite a bit of agenda here as well for everyone here. All right, especially we do have a Kahoot session as well. Doesn't matter whether you're from Malaysia or outside of Malaysia, there is some prize reward for everyone as well. All right, but just to cater for today's event, all right, so as you can see from the slides here, for the agenda for today is quite simple. I'll just do a quick speaker introduction. So we do have our speaker here today. Of course, it's not myself. I'm just Luke. I'm just the moderator here for today. But I'll give you a quick introduction about our speaker later on. All right. Then later on, Linus will go on about, all right, what is Linux? What are part of the roadmap? What are some of the tips and tricks or tools that you can learn from Linux environment as well? Okay. Then we do have a few Kahoot sessions, so do take note on that. So get your phone ready, or just open up a browser. Just be ready later on when we have our Kahoot session. Yeah, you feel free to just join in. There are some prizes up for grab as well. Okay, and most important of all, do take note. Do stay back all the way towards the end, because we do have a special announcement at the end of the slide here, or at the end of our session. All right, so that will be our agenda for today. So on my part, I'll quickly just introduce our speaker right now. Our speaker for today, of course, for things you wish you learned before learning Linux, you knew before learning Linux, is Mr. Linus Lai here. All right, his name sounds very close to Linux. He mentioned he didn't come out the name because for his love for Linux as well. But it's up to you guys to guess. All right, Linus, yeah, that's where that's where you know this is a Linux expert right here. Okay, but Linus has been in the industry for more than over 20 years. All right, he loves sharing technology. He's one of our best speakers in Infosyte as well. If you ask all our colleagues here who's the person who can talk the most or who can share the most, it will definitely be Linus. All right, if Linus said he's number 2, no one would claim to be number 1 at all. Okay, he's been starting out from a small company all the way to some of the biggest brands as well. And with Infosyte as well, he's teaching quite a lot of courses, not just in Linux environment, for Red Hat, Microsoft, CompTIA, Cisco, Huawei, you name it, he most probably can teach it as well. Okay, besides teaching, you can see in the middle portion of the slide, he's a Linux advocate. He started from very long time ago. He basically knew quite a lot with the different Linux flavors and so on. You ask him, most likely he would know about it as well. He's also a volleyball player. So if anyone is short of a player as well, do invite him. Even if in the Philippines, he might fly over. He likes to travel. That's one thing. He's a nature lover as well. So you can get to see places all around. He's also a photographer, although he claims he's an amateur photographer. But if you see some of the pictures posted by Infosyte and so on, you can see some of them are actually taken by him as well. All right. So yeah, that's just a quick introduction about Linus. I'll leave the rest of the topic session as well. He'll go into details about what you can learn about Linux as well, what are the tips and tricks that you can learn from it. So I'll leave those to Linus to introduce the rest of his agenda to you guys as well. So right now, over to you, Linus.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Selamat pagi, Malaysia. Selamat pagi, everyone. And also magandang umaga. I see a lot of folks from Philippines as well. All right. So, and also thank you, Luke, for the introduction. It's my pleasure to be your speaker for today. And so, as Luke mentioned, I've been in this industry for more than 20 years. Actually, to be honest, my passion begins since I cannot remember what year was that, but it was in the 90s where I was fascinated with this hacking skill. And when I did some research on internet, and I found out that people actually recommend, if you want to learn hacking, the best way to learn hacking is to learn Unix. And I was like, okay, what the hell is Unix? So from there, I started to discover Linux is the best alternative to learn if you want to become a Unix guru. All right. So let us begin our journey to start this session. So now, to be honest, this session is more towards sharing experience and also some of the tips which I can recall, some of the good, some, yeah, the first question that normally people ask, what is Linux? Okay, and there's a lot of a misconception about people thought what Linux is and what Linux are not. So first of all, Linux is actually a kernel. Okay, so if you guys are familiar with what's kernel, kernel is basically normally what people say is the heart of the operating system. So every operating system needs kernel. Okay, and particularly for Linux, Linux kernel is something where kernel itself, the piece of software is developed by a group of people, and you have other kernel, you have other people develop other stuff. Like for example, your graphical interface is developed by another group of people. Your Apache web server, your Nginx web server is developed by a different bunch of people. Okay, so this is actually a very interesting part about Linux. So, but if you want to be more specific, Linux is actually just the kernel. So next, Linux often associated with this open source movement. I have to agree that, but remember, open source movement can be for Windows as well. There are also plenty of other Windows software which is actually part of the open source movement. And today it has becoming a trend. Most of the software, if you want that, if you want to develop a software and you want that software to be popular, and you want more people to contribute the idea, so open source is one of the best choice. Okay, and I often say this: how do you make money? Or maybe I often get the question: how do people make money by open sourcing all the codes to the world? Okay, so the answer is very simple. You have so many examples that you can refer to. For example, from people from Red Hat, people from Ubuntu. I would say these two are probably one of the two most successful example where people can make money by offering support services for people, for customers that wanted to use open source software. Okay, so and also they customize to make the software easier and friendly to the customer. Okay, billions of chips. Okay, so why did I mention billions of chips? Okay, so guys, think about it. How many gadgets at home are powered by Linux? Okay, think about it. From your smart television, from your smart TV, to your smart refrigerator, to your smart sensor, your routers. Some of the routers here today, they are powered by Linux. Right, from your phones, if you're using Android phones, they are most likely running Linux today. I would say very unlikely I would see people still use phones which are running on Windows Windows Phone OS. Very unlikely. But here's the point. Billions and billions of equipment are powered by Linux. This is actually a fact. Cost saving for billions as well. So this is actually the same concept. If billions chips powered by Linux, so think about some of the commercial operating system. If they charge for every single chips that you use the software, the OS, so we have to be paying like billions and billions of dollars because we want to use the OS, right? So cost saving, definitely. Okay, the last point here is is accelerated technologies. So Linux open source movement actually did bring the technology to the future, right? So and also enhance the pace of developing, because open source movement, anyone, any good talent people can participate in the open source the software to develop and also to contribute the ideas, the great ideas to develop a better software. And it's open, and it can be developed 24/7. So this is actually the main point, okay? So that's a general introduction of some of the Linux point. Next, I want to talk about the successful roadmap to learn about Linux. Okay, so this is something which I came up by myself. I put this into 5 phases, all right? So think about, okay, the first phase is actually curious, right? I'm not sure how many of you guys here actually came to this session because of you're curious about what's Linux and maybe what Linux can do to you or something else, all right? So just like my example, okay, I started because I wanted to learn about hacking. That's actually how I started. I was curious about hacking. I was curious about Unix operating system. That's how I end up in picking up Linux. Okay, so first of all, you need to be curious. You need to know how and how great is Linux. So what, who, when, where, and also you must have something called the end game in mind. So end game here means that you have to know what is eventually what you want to build. Right. So what are the things, or maybe what are the projects that you want to build and in mind? So let me just quote you one simple example. So for most of the user here, or maybe most of the participants here, I can suggest you a very simple project, which is called your home server. Okay. Now for me, this is actually my learning journey. If I want to learn Linux, I need to know what can I build eventually at home, so that I can have something to play around. I can have some Linux machine to play around. So I built a home server, okay? So what do you want to run with your home server? Very simple, file sharing. This is the first thing. You want to be able to have a file sharing platform to be able to share files among your family members, okay? And also you want to build a file server because you want to store your photos and your videos, the one that you shoot from your digital camera, your smartphones. And throughout the years, I think most of us here owns smartphones more than 10 years, right? So can you imagine how many photos and videos that you have been taken? So why don't you you save all the photos in your home server rather than store in the cloud? Because when you store in the cloud, those folks, they will charge you forever and you have to pay until you die. All right, so yes, correct, this is a statement. So why don't you have a simple project, simple end game project in your mind? And the reason I mentioned this curious is that if you know how to build a home server at home, you know how to build a server for a company. So that's actually my point. So the building process is almost the same. Okay, it's almost the same. So the second part is to learn. First of all, you must have an end game in mind, and then you start learning. So how do you learn? We will discuss this in the one of the slides later. There, I gave you some suggestion how you can go through the learning process, and then once you start learning, practice, practice, and practice. This is something where you cannot avoid, okay? Because Linux is not like any other software in the industry where you can just click the mouse button and just like that, you know. You need to practice, practice, and practice. You need to build, you need to test it, and after that, destroy it and then rebuild again. Now, I cannot count how many Linux machine that I built before in the past. I don't know, maybe 1,000 or maybe a couple of thousands of Linux installation you install and then you destroy it, you test it, and etc. etc. I am still doing this until today. Back in those days, when I started my Linux journey, I'm not sure how many of you guys know something called a floppy disk. Yes, the first distribution that I was using during those days were called, there's a distro called Slackware Linux. Okay, and one thing I like about the Slackware Linux here is that you can download by diskette format, right? So because it's not like today you can download the ISO file and just install. No, it's not like that. You have to download it in the diskette. So I need to buy a whole stack of diskettes. Okay, the 3.5 the 3.5 inches, that kind of disc. Okay, and you can drink and drink. What a rhyme. Okay, so now this is actually what I just pitched earlier. The end game is actually related to this every day. So the end game, for example, if you build a Linux a file server at home, right? So you will have a Linux machine all the time with you, right? So for example, today you might be building a simple file server. Tomorrow you might be building a file server. Tomorrow you might be building a print server, which in fact I did that to my printer as well, the USB printer. I convert the USB printer to become a file sharing, a printer sharing. Okay. You can also build a mini web server for your home, for yourself, right? So you can have your own WordPress. You can learn how to register a domain name, and you can tie the domain name into your home server. Okay, so the next point here is that we should be able to become scaleless. Okay, so scaleless means that you are not afraid of Linux. So how do you know that you achieve that scalelessness? The answer is very simple. Next time when you do a search in the Google for any error messages, and many times you come to see those suggestions like, okay, what are commands that you can use to overcome your problem? So many times when you see those commands, it's actually very scary. Okay, so the moment you reach the scaleless stage is the moment where you can consider yourself somebody which actually understand Linux. Okay, so let me go further to demonstrate, to share with you guys some of the tools here that can help you to make your life a lot easier, especially when you are in the journey of learning Linux. So let me introduce the first tools. It's called the 𝒉𝒂r𝒏𝒈. Okay, 𝒉𝒂r𝒏𝒈. So this is actually how it looks like. 𝒉𝒂r𝒏𝒈. It's a freeware. This is not an open sourceware, but, for information. So this is one of the very popular tools among the Linux administrator, because they can actually use these tools to perform SSH sessions, and also they can use it for also the graphical stuff. Okay, so 𝒉𝒂r𝒏𝒈 can be used for multi-purpose. You can use RDP session, connect the RDP session, and etc. etc. So 𝒉𝒂r𝒏𝒈 is one of my favorites. So let me just show you a very brief demonstration. I do have a 𝒉𝒂r𝒏𝒈 installed on my machine. This is, by the way, is a Windows software. And from the 𝒉𝒂r𝒏𝒈, I can enter into my home server example. This is a home server. And I can also run graphical software with 𝒉𝒂r𝒏𝒈. So 𝒉𝒂r𝒏𝒈 is not only like just to run SSH command, which is like a putty or putty. I can actually run graphical software. So Virt Manager is one example of a graphical software. So this graphical software, supposedly I need to run this software within the machine itself, within my Linux box itself, if I want to run any graphical software. But with 𝒉𝒂r𝒏𝒈, I can bring the graphical interface to my Windows screen. So this is just one simple example. And also one of the main reasons why I use 𝒉𝒂r𝒏𝒈 is not only for the SSH, and it's also for the graphical interface as well. Okay. Now let's talk about the second tools. It's called the putty and the 𝒉𝒈. Okay. Now I think a lot of people here know what is a putty or putty, but together with a 𝒉𝒈, you can actually make your life a lot easier, especially when you try to troubleshoot, when you're trying to manage multiple Windows Linux sessions. So let me just show you a simple example. If you want to run the putty with a 𝒉𝒈. So this is an example of a putty. I think everyone knows this is a putty. And every time when you enter an IP address, something like this, 192.168.100.100, So you have to sign in your name and the password and things like that, right? So with a Pigeon, okay, with a Pigeon, you can skip this process. Okay, so let me show you. This is the Pigeon, and these are all the keys. Let me remove all my keys and to show you guys from the beginning. I can remove all the keys. So once I remove all the keys, you will see something very, very different. Okay, so let me just duplicate this session, and okay. And when I try to log in with my username, and this time it's prompting me for the password. Okay, so get to learn how to use this Pigeon so that you can have passwordless login and the secure way. Not only passwordless, but also secure way. Okay, this will help you to manage multiple Linux machine the easy way. Now the third one is one of my favorite. It's called the putty and the tunneling. This is actually I'm not sure how many of you guys knew this feature. This is a tunneling feature where you can have a very interesting session, especially when you want to do a lot of experiment. You want to test the browser, you want to test the you want to test the web server, you want to test those application which has some unique port number. So usually those port numbers is something that you need to open up from the internet and things like that. So you can use SSH tunneling technique to easily open up the software. Okay, so I will show you guys later in one of the demo shortly. Okay, now finally the important, the most important tools that you must have if you want to embark on this journey to learn Linux is the VirtualBox. Okay, now why I mentioned VirtualBox here is because VirtualBox is one of the great virtualization tools where it's actually free. And if I'm not mistaken, this is also open source as well. So here's the example. I can spin up the VirtualBox together with my Rocky Linux. Okay, so Rocky Linux, yeah, so I can actually start this Linux. I can run a Linux without installing or without formatting my Windows machine. So you can, this is the best way to learn any Linux or maybe any other operating system beside your Windows. In fact, if you want to learn Windows as well, VirtualBox is also one of the great tools that you can use to install your other Windows. Let's say, for example, you want to learn Windows Server and stuff like that. So VirtualBox is a must. Okay, so here's the example. I'm running Rocky Linux on top of my Windows machine. Okay, yeah, so this is actually without need to have another machine to be installed just on Linux and to mess up with your operating system. Okay, and by the way, for those who do not know what's Rocky Linux, just a quick introduction. Rocky Linux is the replacement for CentOS Linux for your information. If you want to find out more, you can do a Google search for Rocky Linux, and it's a replacement for CentOS Linux. All right, so let's talk about sharing number two. Sharing number two here is the command line tips, right? Command line tips. So here I quoted some examples of command line tips, and let me just do a quick demonstration. Okay, so first let me use my Pigeon and to add the key. Let me add the key, and I'm gonna add my private key here. And with this private key, I just need to enter my password I need to enter my password for my private key just for one time, okay? And after that, whichever session that I launch here with my username, I do not need to re-enter any password because I'm using a passwordless login, okay? So let me just give you some examples. For command lines, this is actually how you learn command lines. For example, the first command line here is called the history command. It's not the high story, it's called the history command. history command is a very useful command. So if you just type history, and the system will show you the past like 2,000 or maybe 3,000 commands that you typed before. And let's say, for example, if I want to repeat command in line 1952, assume that this is a very long command, which I just want to repeat this command without need to retype everything. So what I can do here is that I can type this special symbol called the exclamation mark followed by 1957, for example. So this is actually to repeat those command which is located in line number 1952. So these two works hand in hand. Okay, so you have a history command and you have the power of the exclamation. So you can actually repeat, for example, you are doing some scripting. This is example. Yeah, so you're doing some scripting, so you want to repeat this script. So this is what I would do. I would just put a simple exclamation mark followed by the numbers. Okay. Now the second one here is the third tips here is the Control R. This is called the reverse search in the history command line. Reverse search. So if you hit Control R, okay, on your command line prompt, so now you can actually type those commands that you previously ran before. So for example, if I want to check out VIM, so this is example VIM. Okay, so VIM, so this is you can actually repeat by pressing Control R again, Control R again, Control R again. So this is actually just to repeat search from the history VIM. So example, okay. So if you want to cancel the search, you can hit Control C just like that. So this is something very useful. I use it all the time. Alternate dot, also my favorite. So alternate dot, for example, okay, so if I edit this file, for example, VIM, find edit, find.txt, and after I finish it, or maybe if I do a cat, right? So I want to VIM and followed by a command called cat, and I want to repeat the same file name, which I'm lazy to type the file name. So what I can do here is to use alternate dot. All right, so you see alternate dot. So this is to repeat the last argument. Okay, so this is actually to repeat argument. Now arrow key, if you use arrow key, scrolling up arrow key, this is to repeat the entire command line. This is to repeat entire command lines. Okay, so use alternate dot is to repeat just the last portion, which is the last parameter. So this is the alternate dot. All right, next one is also my favorite. It's called the screen command. Okay, so let me show you what is screen command. For your information, screen command is not a default command. For most of the Linux machine, you need to probably have to install this screen. So to install the screen, you can, if you're using Ubuntu, you can use apt installed screen. And if you're using a CentOS box, then you can use yum. You can use yum to install this. Okay. Yeah, you can use yum install screen. Okay. So this is the okay. So I've already installed the screen. So let me show you screen screen. So then I type a command called top, for example. Okay. So top is to run a software where you can look at your status, your CPU, your memory, etc., etc. And then, for example, if I want to just get out from the session right now, and I want to resume back, so let me show you this. Once you enter screen, you can then hit Control A and D. D stands for detach. So you can see that I'm actually detaching myself from that session, and I'm going to launch a different session, or maybe I can just quit. I can just log out from here. I can just exit from this session, get out from the session, and I can go back home from the office. Drive back. So once I reach home, I can type screen minus R. R stands for resume, right? So I want to resume the session. So now it's asking me which session that you would like to resume. So let me say I want to resume the session which is 1, 2, something, something, something. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter, resume, and yes, I'm back to this session. Okay, so how cool is this? As this is actually very useful if you are doing the compilation, if you're compiling something, or maybe you have something that you want to a command that you want to run for a long term, maybe for some time, and you just want to quit the session. Sorry, you want to quit from SSH, you want to go somewhere else, and you want to be able to resume from home or maybe from some other places. This is the best. Okay, it's called screen. All right, so let me just cancel this screen. So this is a screen, as I mentioned before, you have to install. Okay, so next one is VIM. So this is a comparison between VI and VIM. So let's say, for example, let me show you a simple example. Okay, what is VI? Okay, for those who do not know what is VI, VI is a notepad. Okay, so as you know, VI is a notepad. It's just like our Windows, we have something called notepad. Okay, it's a place where you type tags, messages, and things like that. So you want to create this is a notepad. So exactly like this one here, but except VI is something where you need to learn how to use, especially on your journey to Linux, because in Linux machine there are so many files that you need to edit using text editor. So VI, so use VI. Okay. There are a lot of people will suggest you that you can use Nano and you can use some other software, but to me, I would say VI is a must because you do not need to install any additional software. Every Linux comes with VI by default. And also you can use the ℎ𝒏𝒈 command keys for navigation. So you can use, okay, for example, what I'm doing here is 𝑗𝑗𝑗. Okay, 𝑘𝐭𝐾 is to go up, 𝑘𝐭𝐾. All right, LLL is to go left, go right. HHH is to go left. Okay, so there's a left and the right key, and then there's a up and the down key. So you can use okay. So the reason why you want to use this is because you do not need to move your hands. You do not need to lift up your hands and go to the cursor area to do navigation and to come back to the ABCD section. No, you don't need to. So once you are familiar with VI, you can do lots of things very fast, very quick. So let me show you the difference between VI and VIM. Okay, now guys, this is the time when I'm using alternate dot. I'm not sure how many of you guys saw that. So now I changed VI to VIM. So I'm using VIM _while.sh, and so this is the difference. Okay, with VIM you can see colors. Okay, instead of black and white. So VI will only show you black and white. So VIM will show you, VIM can recognize by the syntax of the file. Okay, so this is an example of shell files. We call it the bash shell. So it shows you different colors to represent a different syntax. Okay, so so install VIM. All right, so the first thing you do is to install VIM. Again, the installation is super easy. Just yum install VIM, which I've already installed. So there's nothing different here right now. Okay, so finally, the last command that I want to introduce is called the alias, or call it alias. So for example, you can do alias, command enter, and you can see there's a lot of commands can be represented by aliases. For example, okay, so if I often type command like this, for example, ls minus trl, okay, ls, I think maybe most of you guys know what's ls. TRL stands for time. I want to sort the file by time order, sort by time. Look at the time here. And I want to sort in the reverse order. So reverse order means that the latest file, the latest time of the file will be at the bottom. Okay. and then I want to have L for long listing. So without the L, it will show me just file name without the details. Okay, so T stands for sort by time. By default, it will sort by name, alphabetical orders. Okay, so this is example ls minus trl. So instead of typing this every time, I can use alias to have a alternative. For example, lsr, for example, list reverse, for example. So I can use a command like this. Okay, so I'm creating an alias myself, lsr, so to represent the previous command. So this is the alias command, and so now once I enter alias, I can use the lsr command just like that. Okay, third sharing point, and also I've got the last final. Okay, so I'll try to cut this short. Okay, so the third point here is application. So Linux is, you have a bundle of alternative application for, okay, so let me just quote you guys a few examples. For example, in terms of application office application, we have something called the LibreOffice. So for those who have not heard about the LibreOffice, let me just show you from the website, LibreOffice, okay, example. So if you go to image, and this is actually how it looks like. So you have a complete office suite, okay, LibreOffice. OpenOffice is also another alternative, and etc. etc. So there's a lot of alternative in the industry. Another alternative is the Photoshop alternative, right? So you guys are going to be surprised. There is this software called GIMP, okay, GIMP, which is actually the alternative for the Photoshop, where you can produce stunning images, you know, by using the open source software. And GIMP itself do have a version for Windows as well. You don't necessarily have to run Linux as your OS. You can also run GIMP for Windows as well. Okay, so this is one example. And we also have something called the Inkscape. So Inkscape is a Photoshop Illustrator alternative, where you can use cool software like this to build, to draw, we call it the vector image. This is not the raster, to draw very cool icons, right? Yeah, and animation and stuff like that. So this is actually some alternative. So my point here is that there are bundle of alternative software. For server end, you can use Docker to spin up any application. If you want to test out any application, any software, you can use Docker. So sorry guys, I don't have time to go into in-depth of what is Docker. But let me just show you example the Dockers that I have at the moment. For example, I have something called the Grafana. Okay, to be honest, I don't have time to install the Grafana from scratch. So with a Docker commands, I can do something like this. For example, Docker starts a simple web server, for example, like nginx, Docker run nginx. Okay, so this is how fast to install to run application in Linux, especially on the server application. So you can just type Docker run nginx, and the system will now start downloading the software and to install it. Okay, yes, you can see that, hey, it's running. My Docker is actually running. Okay, so my point here is that to run application, you can do it within seconds. Okay, so let's say, for example, 99:80. Okay, so let me just give you one simple example. I'm configuring this port 99 to map with the port 80 and to start my nginx. Okay, now I want to demonstrate and show you guys how I can use tunneling technique, the tunneling technology, to map the IP. Okay, I know this is a bit too, maybe this is too overwhelming for some of you guys, but this is actually the main point. All right, so I can actually configure a port which is 19199 to map to this port 99, and this 99 port is to map with port 80. Okay, so let me just connect to the browser, and I'm going to use localhost 199. Okay, yeah, so here it says welcome to nginx. See that? Yeah, so this is actually a double net mapping. From 199 I map to my Linux box 99. My Linux box 99 port 99 map to port 80, which is the backend port. Okay, which is connected to the nginx. So this is a very simple example. I can test any application within seconds. This is my main point. You can test any application within seconds, and you can do it easily, very easily. Okay. So open source first, then proprietary. Now, once you learn Linux, especially for organization, for most of the enterprise user, you will start to think open source first, then proprietary. So let me just give you one example. NMS, okay, network monitoring system. So usually when we think about network monitoring system, we would just go to Google and search for any Windows-based application, any free software or any backup software. But once you learn Linux, you will change your mindset, right? You will change your mindset, and you will like, okay, since I knew there are so many applications, Linux, which is offered for free, I can test it. I can test the software. I can run it for free. So why don't I Google for open source NMS or open source backup software, for example? Okay, open source enterprise backup software, open source enterprise NMS solution, for example, or open source whatever. So you will start to think open source, then proprietary. Okay, so this is actually what I noticed, that a huge change in my life, where I do not need to depend on this commercial software. So these are some of my suggestions. You can test out Nextcloud. So what is a Nextcloud? Nextcloud is to build your own Dropbox server, but for free. Okay, Samba, you can test out Samba. This is the one that I mentioned from the beginning. You can easily build a file server at home. If you know how to build a file server at home, you know how to build a file server for your organization. And the best part, like as I mentioned before, license free. There's no need to concern about the cal license for Windows, cal license, no concern at all. So because Samba is free, okay, and also there's no license at all. You can learn how to set up cup server. This is a print server. Now remember, I mentioned earlier, whatever you learn how to build at home, you can deploy this in your organization. Okay, SoftEther, the VPN server, my favorite VPN server. This is a fantastic VPN server. I think one day I will create one session just to share about SoftEther, one of my favorite topics. IP tables or Endian firewall, you can have a complete, very powerful firewall for free, open source. Okay, Proxmox is a vCenter plus EXXI plus a vSAN. So how cool is that? You can have your own virtualization environment absolutely free by just learning how to install Proxmox, just like that. Okay, so this is the third sharing, point number 3. So let's talk about point number 4. This is the most important. Now, the reason that drives me to like Linux, to love Linux, and even to change my name to become Linus is because of the spirit. Okay, I love the spirit. I really like the spirit of open source, the sharing concept. You know, people contribute in the community. So this is actually the main reason that drives me why I'm still using Linux until today. I never quit. Okay, all right. So this is point number 1. Point number 2 here, to spread Linux. Okay, so once you learn Linux, naturally you would want to share with the surrounding people, especially the tech guys. All right, I always because as a trainer, I always talk to my student, and I constantly try to brainwash them to enter into Linux area. Spread it. Okay, involve it. Involve means you download the software, you use the software, you participate in the community, give some comments, share some ideas. What can you learn to build this and things like that. Involve. Okay. Finally, contribute. All right. So because most of the developers for open source, they develop for zero income, or maybe they don't charge anything from this. So they will always ask for like, okay, can you sponsor us some beer? Okay, so if you're not non-Muslim, all right. So, or maybe they'll ask you for a cup of coffee. So you can actually donate them by just contribute them from free coffee and something like that. Okay. So this is actually point number 4, and I think that this is actually one of the points that is very, very powerful. So without all this, you won't get to see Linux today. Okay. All right. So the final thought is the learning process. All right. So how do you get yourself a kickstart? You want to learn Linux. So the first suggestion here is YouTube. Okay. Now, guys, earlier I mentioned about the VirtualBox thing. If you want to learn how to install Linux using the VirtualBox, there are plenty of YouTube tutorial. So I don't think I need to have another YouTube session just to show you guys how to install Linux on a VirtualBox. You can find this very easily in YouTube. The next point here is self-study, reading books. Okay, so this is actually the method that I was using back in many years ago, more than 20 years ago. Self-study, I bought lots of books, especially on Linux title. And I also love magazines. Linux magazine is one of my favorite. Okay, self-study, books, training, learn from experts. Okay, join a training class, online learning classes, offline learning classes. This is actually one of the fastest way for you to kickstart your Linux journey. And the final part is the join the interest group. Okay, there are many interest groups in your own community, right? So if you're staying in Manila, if you're staying in Jakarta, if you're staying in Kuala Lumpur, if you're staying in Penang, Johor, Singapore City, there are many interest groups. So you can go to a website and search for example, you can go to meetup.com and you can search for a Linux interest group, and there are many people there are willing to share ideas. That's actually how I met up some of my friends. We call it a Red Hat Meetup. So it used to be this one group. I'm combining my 𝒁𝒐eater together with my Nextcloud at home. Okay, so this is the example of the 𝒁𝒐eater. Don't be mistaken by this name. 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈.𝒁𝒐eater.net is nothing to do with this has nothing to do with the VPN server. One of the great thing about 𝒁𝒐eater is that 𝒁𝒐eater offers free dynamic DNS name. So this is one of the name that I registered for myself. It's called the 𝒂𝒊, right? So, and I use this to host my website for free. Okay, I use this name to host my website. And this is actually the 𒁐𝒐eater, some of the photos I've taken. And I'm also a big fan of Snapseed. For those who have not used this software before, this is a mobile app, Snapseed. I use this to modify my photos to make it look cooler, brighter. Okay, and this thing is actually this is the Nextcloud. All right, so for information, Nextcloud. So exactly the same like how you get your G Drive and OneDrive and etc. Okay, back to you, Luke.
All right. Thanks a lot, Linus, for the insightful session. So hopefully those tips and tricks, of course, help everyone to understand better as well what you can improve on when you're going for Linux environment. Okay, just remember what Linus mentioned. Just repeat every day: sleep, eat, drink, dream. Also, got to dream. You got to dream about Linux in order to improve yourself in a Linux environment as well. All right. So This is there's a special announcement right here, as you can see from the screen being shared. We are offering a special promotion for this month alone. All right. For this month itself, we have this promotion here where if you're interested to learn more about Linux itself, just for your information, Infosyte is part of a Linux professional institution certification and certified partner. So we do teach Linux classes as well. So for those who are interested, do drop us an email at sales@infosyte.com and you'll be entitled to a 50% discount. As you can see the pricing wise on the screen itself as well. So for Malaysian, after discount, you're going to be looking at 1,250 ringgit Malaysia. For anyone outside of Malaysia, your pricing will be $350 US. All right, so it's very simple. Do take note on some of the terms and conditions on this as well, as this offer is only valid for the class of 20th to 21st of June. We do have a training session. We'll be conducting a training session on the 20th to 21st of June here. So this promotion right now is only available for this month. All right, so do take note on that. It's very simple. Actually, all you have to do is just drop us an email at sales@infosyte.com and you'll be entitled to this 50% discount. So do drop us an email. Our colleagues here from our sales team will explain to you how you'll be able to redeem the voucher and you'll be able to attend the class on the 20th to 21st of June at the discounted rate. All right. So do take note, once this voucher right here, some of the terms and conditions, this voucher is not applicable with any other discounts or ongoing promotion from Infosyte as well. And once you redeem, it cannot be refundable. It's not refundable for cash, cannot be cancelled as well. All right. So of course, from Infosyte as well, we have the right to amend to some of the T&C, just take note on that. But just drop us an email if there's any changes. We'll always just reply you via email as well. Okay. So that's the promotion we have here. Just a gentle reminder, just drop us an email at sales@infosyte.com and you'll be entitled to this 50% discount. Okay, and as I can see from the chat as well, some of you guys are looking forward with some other topics as well, like Dockers or a more in-depth advanced session. Yes, you are in luck here. So we do have an upcoming session here. It's actually on the 17th of June. So you can follow Infosyte's Facebook page and so on as well. But on the 17th of June, which is a Friday, we do have an advanced session as well. You have a live talk agenda to learn more about what is LPI, Linux Professional Institute certification and so on. Why should you go for Linux certification? Who should join? What courses are there? And where to attend as well. So feel free to register for that event as well. It'll be very, very useful because it's gonna be a more interactive session here, where we'll be discussing about, you can even find out what level you are in as well for your Linux knowledge as well. We will ask some simple questions, see where you are. You can give some feedback on what you have known so far, and we can easily just do a short assessment on where you are right now or which Linux certification course you should go through as well. Okay, so do take note, do go to Infosyte Malaysia Facebook page to check out the upcoming session as well. That will be happening on the 17th of June. Okay, there will be a more advanced session. Yeah, that will be easiest as well. All right, so that's our upcoming session. So I believe that's it for our agenda as well. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, once again, for your time and participation this morning right here, for joining us and so on, to learn more about Linux, what are the tips and so on as well. Of course, special thanks to Linus here, who spared his time here for us today, this morning here, an hour to talk about things about Linux as well. He loves Linux, so I don't think he minds spending extra time here to talk to us about this as well. You give him another 2 hours, he'll be happy to stay another 2 hours to talk to you about all of this as well. All right. Just a gentle reminder before we end our session here. For those winners, all right, kindly PM your details to our colleagues here, Jonis, with your full name, your email address, your company name, destination, and contact number. So we may credit the reward to your account as well. We will contact you personally to credit the rewards into your account as well. All right. So that's it from our side. Thanks so much, everyone, once again. Hope you guys enjoyed the session. And look forward to our upcoming session on the 17th of June as well for advanced session on Linux. And if you feel like you want to attend our Linux course at a discounted rate, just remember, drop us an email at sales@infosyte.com. All right. Do visit our page as well, www.infosyte.com, to find out what other courses are available from Infosyte as well. All right. So thanks, everyone. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the session. Enjoy the rest of your day as well. And that's it from us for today. Looking forward to see you guys in our next live session. Do take note, we do this every month as well. This month, slightly special. We have 2 sessions here. So looking forward to see you guys in our next session as well. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.